People's lives should be celebrated when they are alive, to join in the celebration, not in death. And that is why we have chosen today to celebrate the life of Fela Kuti's band leader, TAJUDEEN OLALEKAN, ANIMASHAUN, popularly called Babani, who along with the legendary afrobeat singer, took African music to the world in an unprecedented way. Babani will be 85 on Wednesday, and he believes there is no better time than now for him to discuss managing Fela'S band, the controversy between Afrobeat and Afrobeat, and many more. Babani, you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Good to have you, sir, and happy birthday in advance.
Thank you.
I know that a lot is lined up for Wednesday, and even today, there's a big thing coming up at the Freedom Park.
Yeah.
Exactly, and you already had something at LASU.
Yeah.
How will you reflect on life? I know that you'll be 85 on Wednesday. More than 50 of those 85 years you spent either directly with Fela or with Fela'S band, or even after Fela. How were those 50 of the 85 years, and how has life been in general over time?
Well, quite a lot. I went through quite a lot. Because, for one thing, Fela was a very hard-working musician. I can say the hardest working musician I've ever seen in my life. And then, apart from the early years when we were singing about socializing songs, like Ayawani, Eshelofe, Oloruka, Gboruka, and things like that. And then we went to the first American tour, the Tour of America from June 1969 to March 1970. And it was, we all were exposed to a lot of things. He was exposed to some books that were not readily available in this country. And so by the time we came back, and he also met some Black Panther movement members. So by the time we came back to Nigeria, he became a revolutionary. And since then on, till his death, he was singing political songs, shall I say. He was on the side of the poor. And so we had to go through a lot of things because if you recall, he was always maltreated by the powers that be. And this maltreatment also affected those of us working with him. So it was a quite heavy experience. But I thank God. Thank God.
Thank you. Well, again, we extend our birthday wishes to you in advance.
Thank you.
And I want to cast your mind back to, your heyday with Fela. I do want to go back to some uncomfortable history, though. As you said, Fela and yourselves, you guys were mistreated by the powers that be. And Fela was also very vocally critical of the powers that be, of the current government at that time. Out of that criticism, was there ever any type of fear? Did you ever advise Fela, maybe don't say that, don't do that, we don't want any trouble before the Calcutta event? Was there any type of warning you gave him, or were you guys prepared for anything should it happen?
Well, I used to give some words of advice. But you see, I sincerely believe that if you are made for a certain thing, on a mission, there's nothing anybody can say to stop you. After the burning of Calcutta, and he moved to Ikeja, and the authorities raided his republic and carted away everybody, torture and things like that. A few days after, they were released, and I went on a visit to Fela'S house. And when I got to the compound, I saw the women still selling their stuffs. And so I just went up, and I met him. in his room. I went straight to his room and I said, Fela, how come with all this wahala? When I was coming up, I saw these people, they were still selling smoke and things like that. He was in bed. He just jumped up and challenged me. He said, Annie, so you want me to fear the government? You want me to fear the government? I just kept quiet. He yabbed me, and later asked me what did I want to take. Then asked one of his houseboys to go and get some drinks for me. So that was Fela for you. I used to advise him, but like a man with a mission, you won't listen most of the times.
He had his own mind.
Yeah. Like another example, we went on tour to play at the Berlin Jazz Festival. And Fela decided that the women, singers, dancers, will carry different placards to the venue. We advised him against it. We went with his lawyer, a Ghanaian lawyer. We went on that tour with the lawyer. He advised him. He said, okay. But by the time we got to the venue, we just saw that Fela was...
Yeah. I hope that's not Fela okay. Calling.
That's the Fela spirit.
He just let loose the ladies with the placards.
Oh.
You know. So that was Fela for you. He would do what he wanted to do, regardless of your advice.
How did you meet him? I know that you started with Chris Agilo. You even performed in 1960 during the independent...
yes, at the Federal Palace Hotel.
At the Federal Palace. By that time, you had not met him. So how did your first meeting with Fela happen?
Well, I was a member of the defunct NBC Dance Orchestra, Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation, being directed then by late Pa Fela Kuti.
Fela Kuti.
And at that point in time, Fela was also a producer. He was a producer of a jazz program on NBC. Benson Edunji was also a producer. So, and we used to rehearse at the NBC on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday or so. So, on one of those occasions that I went for rehearsal, we had a break, and I was going to the restaurant. Then I met Fela standing in front of the receptionist's desk. So I approached him, and I told him that I read about him trying to form a high life band. And he said, yes. Then I mentioned my intention to join the band. So he gave me an appointment to meet him. It was a Monday, to meet him at his burnt house, Kalakuta Republic, 14 Agege Muto Road. So in the evening of that day, when I got home, I prepared myself and I went to his house with my horn, baritone saxophone. When I got there, I met some other already recruited members of the band, including late Tony Allen and some others. Benson Edunji was also at that rehearsal. And he gave me a piece of paper, music sheet, on which he had written the song that I was expected to rehearse with the band. So I set up my equipment and I went through the music, and then he tapped Benson and he said, I will take him. That was how I joined him, LA, in 1965.
Wow. Okay. Do you have any of your own? I know that you have released an album or two yourself.
One.
Okay. Do you have any of your children that have taken after you, either playing afrobeat or the new afrobeat now with the S, or anyone in the creative arts at all?
Yes. My youngest son,
okay,
Olamidotu, is now 11 plus.
Okay.
When you look at generations and music, much like your own family, Fela'S family also have definitely continued on that trend of not only speaking truth to power as it pertains to criticizing the government, but also continuing on the legacy of music. So with Fela's children, you've got Femi and Seun, and I think, is it Femi Sonmide, grandson, who also has found himself in the music industry. How does that feel to know that you guys have started on legacies that have stretched through generations of music making in this country?
Well, it's a good thing, and it's a good thing in that you have somebody or some people who are keeping your flag flying. Yeah, it's satisfying.
Yeah. But what's your relationship? I know that you managed Fela'S band after he left 24 years ago, and for like, I think before,
another 19 years.
Another 19 years, particularly with Seun. But how's your relationship with the old Fela, family, Femi, Yeni, all of them? I don't see much of you being involved in Fela'bration. Is it because you at the time slightly retired, or did anything happen?
I was banned.
You were what?
I was banned from entering the shrine.
By who?
Femi, of course.
How possible?
Well, it's a long story. When Fela died, and Beko, who was then the manager of the band,
yes,
was in prison. On 2 occasions, Femi called me one-on-one, asking me if I was going to join him, or was I going to join his uncle and Seun. So I told him that you are the most senior son of the guy, of Fela, and everything Fela left behind in your hands. So that question does not arise. That was what I told him.
Yeah.
But as time went by, he saw that I was more with Seun
and the Egypt 80 band.
And the Egypt 80 band.
Whereas he had positive force?
Even before Fela died, he had positive force. But this is a young man I know very, very well. So I decided to go with Seun. As I was mentoring Seun even before Fela died. So, and I think that is my offense. So, the very first day that the Egypt 80 band, because there was a quarrel and they had to go to court, and the judge in charge of the case settled the matter in the chambers. And somewhere along the line, Seun was asked to come and start playing at the famous shrine. And the very first day they were going to play, the band was going to play there. I go to Kalakuta, Fela'S house in Ikeja, and I went upstairs to meet Seun. And Seun told me, Baba Ani, I will not like you to go for this show. And I asked why. He said, because anytime we are discussing with my boss, and I mention your name, what they used to say is unprintable. And so, please, don't go with the band. Then he put a proviso that, of course, you will be getting your pay for any show we do there. And so he was paying me. When they got to the shrine, eventually that night, they went upstairs in his office to greet him. And he was so annoyed. Where is my gun? Who is at the gate? Then he started yabbing the band. Somewhere along his speech, he said, by the way, where is that your Baba Ani? Now I'm not his Baba Ani. And the boys told him, I was not there. Then he said, like this. Because the boy, when they gave me the message, he was doing like this. tell him not to show his face at the shrine anytime. So since that time, I don't go to the shrine.
Wow, I mean, Febi, that's rather
shocking
and surprising. You know, given the role that you played in shaping the band, and in any case, Femi had his own band, even while Fela, just like you said. But you are their father. You are 85 on Wednesday. You are being celebrated. I think that you should. I'm urging you, sir, to have the large heart to embrace them.
Oh, yes.
Even, you know, I mean, if there are moves to at least ensure, because I know that Yeni is very, very open to, you know, things like this, reconciliation. So
she's a woman. She's a woman, and
Fela is still being celebrated all over the world. And there's no way that Fela's story will be written that your name will not be prominent there. Let me quickly go to what your plans are. I know that in going to LASU the other time, part of the reason why you went there was to mentor young musicians.
Yeah.
I know that some of your plans, you know, are to have a foundation, have a music school, you know, a Babani kind of a thing. Yeah. Are you working towards that? Is there anybody involved, state governments, you know, etc.? How are things taking shape?
Well, for now, I have just a few people headed by German Anikulapo. We have Olashupo, Olaide Olashupo, and also my first child, my daughter, Elijah Samiat Abeke Fagu. So they are the ones working on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talk to us about the Egypt 80 band. I mean, that's another long-lasting legacy for you, with them for around 50 years.
Yeah.
A long time. Tell us about that experience. I know you said that was started before Fela died or after. Tell us about your time within the Egypt 80 band.
Your time as the band leader, managing Fela's Egypt 80 band, while he was alive and then even after he died.
Well, when he was alive, I had him around to report to. At the time he was alive. And so I was the one maintaining discipline in the band, especially when we were on duty, because most of us didn't live in his house. So I was in charge of almost everything since my appointment in 1979 as the leader of the band.
That was after Tony Allen left?
Yeah,
okay.
After Tony Allen left. And it was quite a heavy experience. You know, when you have a lot of people, and in Egypt 80, at that time, we had a lot of people to cope with, to put through. And I think I did my best with different characters in the band. I did my best. And I can say we had no quarrels. I didn't quarrel with people. There was never a time Fela had to settle dispute between myself and any other member of the band. You know. And then after his death, I was also in charge, and Sheung gave me enough latitude to take care of the band. And I had not very much problem with the members of the band, you know.
I mean, there are a lot of them. And when you look at performances like that, you see the array of talent on the stage. You know, you can't...
Full band, though.
Exactly.
Not,
you can't just pick up an instrument and play. It takes a lot of time and training. So when you look at that type of music back then to more computerized sounds that we have now, are you disappointed that the art form of music has been lost over time?
I am, really. A lot of changes have taken place, and I am not very comfortable about, you know, the way our younger generations are handling music. For you to play in Fela'S band, you wanted to be really educated in music, both theoretical and practical, you know. But today, anything goes.
But Babane, when you see people like Burna Boy or Wizkid, who are playing what they now call afrobeats, but the root is in Fela'S type of afrobeat, especially with Burna Boy's music. Are you impressed that at least new thing they're doing, but you can trace it to what Fela created?
To the source. Oh yes, yes. Just sometimes you feel the sound is bastardized somehow. And sometimes they produce enjoyable sounds, you know.
Tell me, Babani, quickly, what were your thoughts when your friend and former partner, I mean, you were together in the band, Uncle Tony Allen, passed on? And then a few articles were written, especially overseas, about the fact that he was the beat in Afrobeat and that he was a co-creator, in quotes, of that form of music with Fela. There were controversies here and there, you know. What was his role beyond playing the role of a band manager that you succeeded? What role did he play in shaping what is now known as Afrobeat, with Fela, of course, as the main man?
You see, in Fela'S way of doing things, every instrumentalist had to listen to Fela because he would dictate what he wanted for you. Like for the drummer now that we are talking about, Fela was the one dictating what he wanted, the rhythm he wanted. But that notwithstanding, I cannot dispute the fact that as a genius himself, a well-trained genius too, Tony Allen was adding his own steps, you know.
To the music.
Yeah. He was a versatile drummer. Very good drummer.
The Guardian of the UK described him.
But that does not rule out the fact that Fela dictated everything, almost everything.
What he wanted.
You just need to add some things from your own personal experience.
Wow.
But he will tell you what he wanted you to play.
Wow, wow.
When you look back at your life up until this point, what would you say was your proudest moment?
My
proudest moment.
Proudness.
Proudest.
Prouded.
Proudest. The moment that you felt proud the most.
Well, I don't think there was a special moment, you know. I'm proud of every moment.
Similarly, could you think of a time where you were most disappointed in your musical career? A time where you felt like, oh, this shouldn't have happened or it shouldn't have been like this?
Oh, yes. There was a time that we started making some money. And Fela bought motor cars. One for his wife, his first wife. The other one for another wife that has a son for him. And the third one for the late J.K. Brymer, his bosom friend. And it was a time that people like Ebenezer Obey, King Sunny Ade, bought vehicles, bought cars for some of their band members. And so we got annoyed that you couldn't even try to buy cars for 2 or 3 of us. So we went on strike.
Oh.
And
you were the band leader then?
No. So the band leader then was Isaac Olashuba, a saxophonist, alto saxophonist. He was the very first band leader of the band. So Alan came to the seat after Isaac left. And so Fela's mother had to come down to Lagos from Abeokuta. So I was in my house, and she sent an emissary to call me. At first, I refused to go, because Fela's house was, that burnt Kalakuta Republic was just a walking distance to my house. I was living at Ailara Street, Surulere then. So I refused to go. She sent the emissary second time. So I asked the guy, who and who were there with Mama? And he said Tony Allen was there, Henry Kofi, and some others. So I thought, well, this woman was as old as my mother, if not even older than my mother. So I went. So she got the statement from both sides of the issue, both sides to the issue, and she settled us.
Great, great. That's at least the encounter that you recalled with Iyaje, or how was she referred to? Fela's mom, the legendary Fela's mom. You know, and on that note, I think that, you know, Babani, we just want to wish you a happy birthday in advance. And of course, we know that those who will be there this evening at the Freedom Park will have a great time. Thank you so much, Fela'S. The legend behind the legend. You know that you are. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming to the studio.